I was curious. So, how did you get involved with this material? How did this script come to you?
In just a conventional way. You know, my agent called and said, you've been offered a movie. I'm sending you the script. I think it's a script you're going to really like. And then he said, no, you're going to love it. I think you're going to love this, and I did. And Ruben Nada, the writer-director extraordinaire, flew to New York. We sat down for what was to be about a 45-minute cup of coffee, and it turned into a 3-hour just extravaganza. Right. And next thing I knew, I was on a plane to Cairo.
And that was that sort of an appeal to you of making a movie in Cairo?
No. I don't really, well, yes, I mean, you know, the idea of going to this extraordinary, exotic location, but it's not really why I would ever take a part of film. I do, it is solely based on the script and the character, but there was a bonus. But I was a little frightened of going to Cairo as an American, and I was a little wary, but all of my fears were unfounded. It's not so much being an American in Cairo. You have to be a little wary of being just a Western woman in Cairo.
Right.
In certain areas, you have to be careful where you go, unchaperoned, without alone. But that's the exception, not the rule in this thing.
And the thing about your character in the movie, you know, it's a very her time there, it leaves a very visceral impact on her. It's kind of she's not going to ever forget her time in Cairo. So one has to assume that while maybe not as traumatic as her experience, but also there's some of that also with you when you left Cairo. Was there some of that with you also? You
mean some of that with me, Patty, when I left Cairo?
Yeah, you know, the experience of, you know, being there for, I think it was 25 days.
Yes. I mean, it was life and art, and I was there for 7 weeks, so I really almost lived in Cairo for, I really did, and I truly experienced Cairo, and the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it's a breathtakingly beautiful city, but it has, you know, aching poverty and difficulty, and
right.
But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So.
And your character, Juliet, she goes through this kind of this very subtle transformation.
Subtle is the right word, yes.
And throughout the film. And I'm wondering, as an actress, what if that's more appealing of trying to modulate that kind of small transformation versus kind of a major epiphany that, you know, that also happens in some characters.
It's one of the hardest journeys I've ever had to chart as an actor, and one that will stay with me forever. I think it made me a better actor, which is what you want to do. You know, you want to continue to grow as an actor, even at the ripe old age I have. You want to, and so it was very difficult because it's such an internal and such a personal, and she moved in half notes, and it was very difficult, but ultimately rewarding. It was so rewarding.
Right. Well, here's a kind of a silly actor question, and it's more about technique. But in this film, you have a lot of telephone scenes.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious about...
Not telephone sex, telephone scenes. Oh, God.
And what is telephone acting? What has been your relationship with that over the years? Have you gotten better at it, or is it always?
Yes, I mean, you hope. It's all still the same thing. I mean, it's still a scene, very much so. Mm-hmm. It's still a scene, and you have to really it's still very. I mean, you can't view it any other way, or you're dead in the water.
Is it better to have someone on the line, or does it not matter?
Yes, it's always great to have someone on the line, but also sometimes you can't, also because of sound, and sometimes it's very difficult. And so you have to actually really do your homework and know exactly what you're talking about, and what you have to chart it out. You have to write it out. I really actually write it in my script. Everything everything that I'm talking about, what the response is. Because sometimes I often was doing a lot of those scenes without anyone on the other end.
What's been the audience reaction to this film? It's been on the festival circuit. Now it's going out.
Incredible. Wherever we've taken it, and you realize this film is played in Toronto, where it won Best Canadian.
Right.
It's to Doha, where it was so well received the first screening that they saved it for closing night. It went to Dublin. Then we went to Aruba. I mean, we've been to San Francisco. It's had such a beautiful response. I'm a little frightened. I'm thinking, oh my God, when's the shoe going to drop? But who knows?
The last two questions. I got to ask. One, my favorite film of the year so far is Shutter Island.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And you're terrific in it. And so I'm wondering, that character is very pivotal to that story. You have this major scene in it. I was wondering, what could you tell me about that experience doing that, working with Scorsese and doing that?
Well, it's an actor's dream. You're working with one of the great directors of all time, and he doesn't disappoint. It was a beautiful experience. I was acting opposite Leonardo, and he, again, one of the great actors working today, and he doesn't disappoint either. So you have to be ready to rock and roll with Martin Scorsese. You just do. You have to come ready to rock and roll. It's a very visceral, it's a very almost primal experience, and it's fun.
And finally, I want to ask you, you've worked with Woody Allen twice on back-to-back Vicky Cristina Barcelona, which is one of our other co-hosts consider that one of the best films of the decade, and also Whatever Works, which I consider a vastly underrated comedy by Woody Allen.
I do too. I think I love the movie so much, and I'm just so honored and thrilled to have been a part of it. Yeah.
Both of those are two very different types of Woody Allen films. One's broad comedy, one's a little more romantic and serious. And so I was just curious, is his approach to directing, was it any different on either film?
I not from what I gathered, no. Woody's a singular experience. He has his vision. He has his way of working. I mean, he's just been doing it for so long now, and he's such a master. Mm-hmm. And he just knows how to do it. And I think he approaches, every story with the same parameters, with the same, I guess, insights, and whether it's a melancholy romance or a kind of bolder comedy of manners almost.
Right.
I think he comes at it the same way.
Well, before I let you go, what's coming up next for you? What do you have? Also, what do you have coming up?
I have, this movie opens August, and then I have Easy A coming up. This wonderful, funny comedy starring Emma Stone and Stanley Tucci, and I play her very kooky, eccentric parents. And then I have a film called Legendary, and Danny Glover and a wonderful young actor named Devin Gray, and that comes out both of those come out in September. So it's a wham bam, thank you ma'am, next couple of months. I'm just like, I have to lie down when I think about it.